Welcome to the fourth episode in a Legendarium series about the 12th century anarchy of England. In this installment, the Warrior-Archbishop, we will talk about how King Stephen of England faced a Scottish invasion only a couple of years after he stole the crown from the Empress Matilda. Unfortunately for King Stephen, the troubles of his reign did not end with his defeat of Lord Baldwin of Exeter, a loyalist to the Empress Matilda. The Welsh princes, aware of the unsettled state of the English throne, chose this time to begin raiding into the English borderlands. Welsh raiders chose late summer as their preferred time to raid, when they could count on fattened cattle and near-ripened grain to seize, leaving the English peasants foodless through the winter. King Stephen had to rely upon the Marcher lords, Norman barons who filled the border with castles to fend off the Welsh. Despite this ongoing problem, King Stephen spent most of the year 1137 with his kingdom in a state of relative peace. Indeed, King Stephen felt secure enough to travel across the Channel to meet with King Louis the Fat of France. And then events on the Scottish border changed everything. King David I of Scotland knew most of the French-speaking aristocracy of England because he spent most of his youth in the court of King Henry I. This knowledge informed his decisions throughout the anarchy, and the disinheritance of his niece Matilda gave him a good reason for waging war on King Stephen of England. In January 1138, David's nephew, William Fitzduncan, laid siege to the English border town of Wark, a holding of the Norman nobleman Walter le Spec. Stephen marched north not just to relieve the siege of Wark, but to check on the loyalties of his northern nobles and raid southern Scotland, showing royal power to Norman and Scot alike. The Scots tried to fight the English on the northern bank of the Tweed River, but Stephen would not be drawn into such a poor position. Instead, he marched through the Scottish lowlands, devastating the countryside as he went, before he ran low on supplies. King Stephen then received reports that the Empress Matilda might be attempting a landing on England's southern coast from her power base in Anjou. With no choice, Stephen hurried south, leaving the unreliable northern lords to confront King David of Scotland, who saw an opportunity not to simply grow rich on loot, but to wrench the north of England away from the Normans. King David seemingly had a golden opportunity, as the northern lords were divided by bitter rivalries. They only united when Archbishop Thurston of Bayeux rallied the lords, recruiting trained levies from across the north. On June 10, 1138, the Scots clashed with the English at the Battle of Clitheroe. There, the men of Galway, who painted themselves blue with woad and wore no armor, proved themselves against English troops equipped with chainmail tunics and halberds. For reasons unknown, one of the Scots, Bernard of Balliol, defected to the Normans after Clitheroe. He joined an English army that marched behind a cart with a ship's mast mounted in it and the sacred banners of the three northern churches upon it. This boosted morale, convincing the English troops that they fought for God. They would need all the spirit they could get, for the English only brought 10,000 men to Northallerton, while the Scots had 16,000. A thick morning fog settled over the battlefield, and the Scots formed on a hilltop. The English line stretched 2 miles long, with dismounted knights mixed among archers and levies. One of the Norman commanders spoke to the army, listing the accomplishments of the Normans since the conquest, a strange move since the Normans had murdered 100,000 northerners during the conquest only 60 years ago. The speaker also claimed that the Scots cooked and devoured English captives and murdered priests in their churches before painting the altars with blood. King David of Scotland wanted his own knights to lead the charge, but the Galwegians insisted that they should be in the first line, given their record at Clitheroe. This triggered a heated argument, with King David finally allowing the Galwegians to lead the charge. English archers showered them with arrows. Most of the unarmored Galwegians perished. A chronicler wrote that some of them resembled hedgehogs covered in needles, yet a few kept fighting, powered by blind rage. It did not help them win. After the annihilation of the first charge, the men of Lothian left the rest of the Scottish army, and King David somehow organized the Scots into an orderly retreat to Carlisle, where he negotiated a peace with King Stephen that left him in control of a large swath of the north. King Stephen likely planned to remove David completely during the following campaign season, but events in the south would make the Scots the least of his problems. That wraps things up for this episode of the Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.